IATF has approved the A4 vaccine priority group, which includes the so-called economic frontliners. After a short halt, the FDA says the rollout of Astrazeneca's vaccine will continue across all age groups. The Science and Technology Department is in talks with at least 6 COVID-19 vaccine makers to build manufacturing facilities in the Philippines. Malacanang announces that the entry ban on most foreigners has been extended till April 30. And a DOTR suspends land and sea trips to Visayas and Mindanao as Bising intensifies into a typhoon. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's a roundup of stories we're watching now. I'm Riza Diaz. The Food and Drug Administration says the use of Astrazeneca for all age groups may resume as benefits outweigh potential risks. But the country's supply of the British-Swedish vaccine has yet to be replenished. Greg Gregorio has the report.
More sectors have been identified as part of the government's A4 priority list for vaccination. This comes after the IATF approved the recommendation of the National Economic Development Authority. These include workers in the commuter transport, groceries, markets, financial services, and food manufacturing. Also included are religious leaders, security personnel, and media workers, among others.
Tinignan nila ano yung bakit essential itong mga workers na to. That's the first. How they interact with clients, what would be the statistics based from the records ng mga nagkakasakit because they are directly interacting with people.
Some of those who belong in the A4 priority group welcome the government's announcement.
Kasi tulad sa akin, nagko-commute ako araw-araw, tapos umuwi ako sa pamilya ko, para peaceful na rin yung isip ko.
Siguro malaking bagay sa atin yung mga taga-media, lalo na tayo nasa film.
The Health Department notes that specific guidelines for the A4 inoculation is still pending.
Schedules for these, pati specific guidelines, aayusin pa ho natin ito. Ito pong binigay na listahan na ito kung paano natin gagawin at saka kung kailan po mangyayari.
Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez admits that the country has been greatly affected by the limited global supply of shots.
May possibility tayo during the third quarter and fourth quarter, maka-equalize na yung global supply because the other countries have been pressured to give their doses, extra doses to the poor countries.
But the government assures the public that additional vaccine doses will arrive starting this month. These include over 3 million doses of Sinovac, 500,000 doses of Sputnik V, and some from Moderna. Under the COVAX facility, over 2 million jabs from Pfizer and 4 million from Astrazeneca are expected. The Food and Drug Administration has allowed the resumption of Astrazeneca vaccination among recipients below 60 years old. The DOH is expected to release additional guidelines before the arrival of the next shipment. The use of AstraZeneca shot for the younger population had been halted due to the reported blood clot incidents in Europe.
So kung i-compare siya doon sa benefit na makukuha ng population sa babakunahan to save them from COVID and death from COVID, talagang mas matimbang yung benefit over the risk.
The FDA and DOH have recorded nearly 26,000 cases of vaccine side effects in the country. Officials note that this is just a small fraction from over 1 million people who have been vaccinated. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
Now, at least 6 private companies have expressed interest in setting up a COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing facility in the Philippines. DOST Undersecretary Rowena Cristina Guevara is joining us live for the latest on this. Yusek, good evening.
Good evening.
Ma'am, first off, has the government identified potential locations for these manufacturing facilities?
We are hopeful that they would settle at the new Clark City because DOST is building the Virology S&T Institute of the Philippines in the new Clark City.
Yusek, what are the most important terms we should learn as early as now? What is fill and finish facility?
A fill and finish facility is basically the end of the line for any vaccine product, wherein you have a bulk antigen, you're going to put it in vials, ampules, or injectables. And then you package it, and then it's ready for distribution.
Ma'am, what's your projected timeline? And are there steps being taken to cut the red tape in this?
What's going on is that since the pandemic started, you will notice that the FDA timeline for approving applications for CPR or even for EUA and for clinical trial has been drastically reduced. For example, it used to be it takes 6 months to get approval for vaccine application for EUA. It's now 21 days. So those things, the various steps that will take a company from thinking about manufacturing in the Philippines all the way to producing their first products, we have broken down the various processes and we figured out where are the government interventions in this, and we have been trying to reduce the number of days it takes to get those things happen. And of course, in the end, we are also looking at policy changes that will make the environment feasible for new vaccine manufacturers to come into the country.
Yusek, what's the role of the FDA in this? And is there a way when we can actually fast track the regulatory process to make the most out of, waiting time?
The regulatory process right now is quite efficient already. We have been receiving very good reports from those that have applied for EUA and have applied for clinical trial applications. What has happened was that in the task group for vaccine evaluation and selection, one of the things that we have done is a whole of government approach where we try to figure out how to shorten the time that it will take FDA to do the analysis and the approval. For example, the FDA has a portion where they do the technical reviews. So even before any of these vaccines applied, the vaccine expert panel of the Department of Science and Technology already started reviewing all the available published scientific literature so that when these vaccine producers apply for the EUA or clinical trial, we're almost done with the technical review.
Ma'am Rowena, aside from COVID-19 vaccines, what are other vaccines are we eyeing to be produced moving forward?
We are looking at all the vaccines that are being used for children and for the National Immunization Program. For example, you know that children get their vaccine for polio and for measles and so on. Did you know that all of these are currently being imported? So the DOH spends about 7.9 or so billion pesos per year to inoculate about 40 million jabs for all of these vaccines. And all of these vaccines are imported at the moment.
And finally, Yusek, how important is it or is vaccine self-reliance, and how can it help us bounce back from COVID-19 pandemic?
First of all, having the vaccines will allow the economy to open up. You know that we're going after herd immunity, wherein about 60 to 70% of the population are inoculated, and therefore we can bring down the transmission rate, and therefore we can open the economy as more people can go to their normal jobs. Now, vaccine security is when a country is able to produce its own vaccine and react rapidly in times of a pandemic. This pandemic has shown us that because we do not have the capability to manufacture the vaccine, we are reliant on other countries to give us or to sell to us the vaccines. We don't want that to happen in the future. And this is the very reason why we are putting up the Virology Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines, so that we can develop vaccines, and in the future, near future hopefully, that we can manufacture our own vaccines.
Well, thank you very much for your time and for your insights. That's DOST Undersecretary for Research and Development, Ma'am Rowena Guevara. The Health Department reported more than 10,700 new COVID-19 cases on Friday. This brought the total caseload to more than 914,000. Of the number, around 193,000 are still active. 145 additional deaths were confirmed overnight, pushing the toll to 15,700. Now, total recoveries stand at 705,700, with 650 additional survivors today. Now, the government's unified contact tracing system is still in limbo as several LGUs have taken it upon themselves to track down COVID positives. How has this setback affected our fight against the pandemic? Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro is giving us a front seat to the story.
This, for many, is what constitutes contact tracing in the Philippines. Small slips of paper with barely legible handwriting. It's supposed to be one of the major pillars in the fight against COVID-19. But the implementation of a unified network digital contact tracing system has been excruciatingly slow. Technically, the national government uses an app called Stay Safe. So we can use our malls as a micro-reference to our contact tracing database system. I've roamed around here and so far I have not found a single store that is using the Stay Safe app, although I was told that there are stores that are using it. Most of the stores here, they're using their own contact tracing website, Google Forms, and these contact tracing papers. Exactly 1 year ago in April 2020, the NTF signed a Memorandum of Agreement with Multisys Systems, adopting the app as the country's official contact tracing system. But the official rollout of Stay Safe only takes place sometime next month, 13 months after the MOA was signed. Rather than wait, many local governments and private companies rushed to develop their own contact tracing apps. For example, Quezon City has QC Pass, Taguig has Trace Taguig. Now, the national government wants to get everyone on the same app, or at least connected to a unified database.
All of this contact tracing app is useless kung hindi mo ma-analyze yung data na di-regenerate. Kung 9,000 cases, 1,000 cases mo daily dito sa Quezon City, hindi mo pa siya mababangga doon automatic dun sa mga data na generate ng mga contact tracing app na to. So wala pang ganun.
Contact tracer Jet Junio explains, the idea is to identify a COVID patient's close contact, regardless of what town or city they live in, work in, or eat in. So long as they are not identified and tracked down, they will be spreading the virus.
Yung mga hindi pa nababaan or sabi natin na contact trace, baka kasi makalabas pa. Sabihin kasi hindi supposedly dapat nagka-quarantine kayo sila eh. Possible po talaga, malaki yung chance na makahawa pa talaga.
In October last year, the NTF required all LGUs and private companies to use the unified Stay Safe app. But progress has been slow to say the least. Currently, the app is only used by 15% of the population and less than half of the LGUs. At the very least, the Department of Interior and Local Government hopes to register 50 million Filipinos on the app. But there's some resistance from LGUs. Quezon City, for example, insists on keeping its own system.
Nauna kaming mag-develop ng online contact system before pa nasabi ng IATF na they will endorsing Stay Safe. No? Sabi na yes, local government can do as long as it can be interoperable with Stay Safe. So,
if at all, the answer would be having a centralized database compatible with all the current apps. At least, that's the plan.
Plano, tagal ng plano. so there should be one repository database ng DICT and ng Department of Health, so that all information gathered by this all contact tracing app nandun lang siya. So far hindi pa yun nangyayari. Hindi ko alam kung kailan pa yun mangyayari.
We can't fight this pandemic divided. So if we can't have a single contact tracing app, then we should at least have a unified database so different parts of the country could work together and heal as one. I'm Jacob Lazaro and we are One News.
And here are other stories we're keeping our eyes on. Malacanang extends the travel ban on most foreign nationals to April 30. Those with valid entry exemption documents duly issued by the DFA prior to March 22 will still be allowed entry. The Meat Importers and Traders Association opposes the calls to revoke Executive Order 128, which lowers tariffs on imported pork. In an interview with 1PH sa Totoo Lang, MITA President Jesus Cham warned that the move would result in supply shortage. And Typhoon Bising is located at 895 kilometers east of Surigao City, moving westward at 15 kilometers per hour. State Weather Bureau Pag-asa says it will bring moderate to heavy rains in eastern Visayas, Caraga, and Davao region, while Metro Manila will experience localized thunderstorms. The DOTR has suspended land and sea travel to Visayas and Mindanao. Now, for more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.